Alan Saunders was an American writer and cartoonist who he once said, "Life is what happens to us while we're making other plans." And it was later popularised, you probably know, by John Lennon in his song "Beautiful Boy." Saunders, he first said this in 1957, and I guess how I see this is that, many of us still spend time planning ahead, creating goals and objectives, trying to weed out those bits of uncertainty, only for that uncertainty to keep coming back, those unexpected things to happen which can derail our plans, either for better or for worse. And if I think of a few things that have really changed my life, outside of my kids, they really came about by chance. I couldn't have predicted them or really planned for them. They just happened. It's like when I first discovered punk rock, I was 11 or 12, and my mum and dad's neighbour, with no real prompting, just handed me this compilation with, and it was Judy Is A Punk by the Ramones on it, and that was it. The Ramones sort of changed my life. Not always for the good, my dad would have said. On the downside, when my parents started to get ill a few years ago, that was a completely unexpected catalyst for me to get back into playing the cello. I never thought that it would happen again. So, these kind of this serendipity, synchronicity, karma, energy, whatever we want to call it, how these things, work together to open our mind to, to new things, to new ways of doing things, to new people, new ideas, that all really interests me. And it only makes me firmer in the belief that, our mindset is the most important asset that we have for really getting hold of these encounters and shaping who we are. So, with their excellent second album as Venom Morris imminent, it's called To Cross or To Burn, I'm thrilled to welcome Paula and Dave Lombardo, and hopefully they'll indulge me a little bit in my incoherent ramblings, and we're going to have a good chat about their own tales of of taking chances, the unexpected, and their life journeys, both individually and together. So Paula and Dave, welcome. Thanks so much for taking some time out.
Thank you, Giles.
Thank you.
So the new record, To Cross It To Burn, for me, I mean, just talking about that to kind of start with, it feels that I get sort of multiple feelings, feelings is a bit ominous, yet there's also a vibe of kind of strength in a sort of supportive way. It's hard to sort of sometimes put into words, but there are these sort of dual feelings. I mean, what was kind of happening in your lives, if that's not too intrusive, that sort of influenced the writing of the record?
You're not being intrusive at all. It's for this record in particular, I think we were, basking in the joy of releasing our first record.
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't even releasing. We had just completed it, and we were working on the album cover. And it was in 2022, and Paula started sending me new songs, new ideas. It's melody and lyrics on a piano, and I was like, "Whoa, this is fantastic!" I couldn't believe it. And we hadn't released the first record, and she was already driven and inspired to write the second one.
Wow.
So that to me, inspired me and drove me. It's like, okay, this is continue. This is fantastic. So at that time, Paula could tell you more about this, but obviously I was away on tour. It was my first tour since the early 2020. And she was going a bit, we miss each other, obviously, as couples, when we have to travel, and she was focusing and directing these emotions on the paper and music, and so I found that inspiring for me to take what she was giving me and get my brain going and getting inspired and seeing, developing these songs in my mind. And to as soon as I got home, okay, let's lay them down, at least getting the rough ideas down. But she could tell you a little bit more about her
Yeah, sure.
mindset, at that time, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I would say that basically Dave had gone on tour and we had just come out of pandemic. And, that was a dark time for everybody. I'm already an introvert and I was a little more closed off. When tour, I was really it was scary for him to be, for me, it was scary that he was traveling again. There was just a lot of unknowns at that time. The anxiety of him being with a new band, even though he'd performed again, there was just a lot of emotions going on at that time. And also just working through some personal issues, different things. Just, I think as we get older, we start to reflect on past mistakes, a little soul searching and that kind of thing. And an overthinker as well. I tend to just wake up in the middle of the night, if I was lucky enough to fall asleep, and start writing. And so I noticed that I'd wake up in the morning and I would have lyrics. And I'm like, who wrote that? It was just kind of weird, And I just started realizing I had a lot to say, and it was taking a darker turn, and I just embraced that and just kept going with it, And so,
was it? Sorry, Paula. Yeah, carry on.
Oh no, I was saying that the floodgates kind of opened. It just, all these thoughts just kept coming. So the songs were coming like every day. It was pretty intense at that time.
That that pandemic period was. I totally relate to you. I mean, I'm an introvert. Certainly through the pandemic, I had a lot of anxiety. Certainly at the start, and then in kind of waves. Just that uncertainty was really sort of disconcerting. And talking about the writing, actually, I mean, I did a class. It was like an online class, as they all were then. That was the kind of the genesis of them, wasn't it? And it was with Laura O'Dell, and who used to be married to Genesis P. Orridge from Psychic TV, and she was doing this class where it was basically stream of consciousness writing. And the stuff that would come out, it was talk about what you were saying that was kind of surprising, where it would just like the floodgates would open. This stuff just came out. It's really weird, isn't it? How you can almost like go to the back of your mind and draw things out that you perhaps weren't aware of.
Yeah, if you allow yourself to let the guard down and let it happen, it's pretty amazing, and it can be a little scary too, honestly.
Yeah.
And you also need to embrace the moments that you don't have that happening, and it could be for several weeks, months. Wow, I haven't any kind of inspiring ideas or in my case, rhythms, drums, or anything to do with music. It just, you have to really embrace the downtime, because that's just feel your mind or whatever it is that inspires you. It's building.
Your life is filling up the pot.
It's filling up the pot, ready to.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, how do you deal with those those times when maybe things aren't happening, or what's coming, or the ideas just aren't coming? Because that can be, some of the things that I've done, that can be quite unnerving. Almost like
it's terrifying because you think that it's gone.
Yeah.
And I had stepped away from music for, I guess, about 10 years, and back to it, it took a lot to come back to it. And I remember saying to Dave, because he's the reason I came back to it, he really worked with me, and during pandemic, actually, to like, why did you stop? I don't understand through this. And he just spent so much time talking with me and just helping me in ways that you can't even imagine. And I think what was strange is, all of a sudden I hadn't written a song in easily 10, 12 years. And all of a sudden I started writing all this music for the first album. Wow. And I remember saying to Dave one night, if anything happens to me, make sure you release this. And he was like, what are you about? And I said, I just don't know where this is coming from. And it's scary because how am I able to do this? Couldn't for so long. And it terrified me because I just thought maybe something's going to happen to me. And this just needs to, this was supposed to be said. And so I got really terrified by that moment, and so, yeah, I think blocks can really mess with you.
Have you been able to, or even wanted to, look back, re-look at that and identify why you didn't want to do anything, and sort of what has changed? Obviously, Dave kind of talking to you and encouraging is just such a massive thing where you have somebody, that you're really close to who really believes in you.
Well, I was going to say that the thing with Dave is he's like a motivational speaker. He's like, I swear, he is the most positive person in the world. I've never met anybody like him, that anything happening and he can still find, the strength to muster through it and like get through everything he can on and just be positive and just move forward. And in talking to him about the various things that had happened in my life and everything, and the reasons why I thought that I had stepped away or why it just didn't bring me joy anymore. He spent a lot of time. I'm not going to swear. I won't cuss on here. But
no, it's totally fine to if you want to. It's no problem at all. Well, if it gives added texture to it.
He kept everything I would come up and say to him, like, well, this happened over here, and and I was told this of this person, and I was told this over here, and he would just, well, F that person, fuck that person. And I'm like flabbergasted. I'm looking at him like he's in the kitchen, middle of the night, like yelling what I wish I could have yelled, and it's like making me go, what is wrong with me? Why didn't I take the reins back then? Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I have that mentality? And at the end of it, I realized, he was teaching me a new approach. And, I've at this point Dave and I had been in a relationship for 10 years. And, I was witness to watching him actually do all the things that he was telling me to do. So it wasn't like just somebody telling you, hey, do this. I actually watched him live these things. And so I think those two things came together and really helped me start to analyze myself a little more clearly and go, okay, wait a minute. I'm letting a lot of things in me that are just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. So.
The power of negative words to a human being is so profound. It's so debilitating, to the believing that, especially an artist. An artist is very vulnerable and very sensitive. We feel music. There are humans that don't feel other humans' feelings. But we go further and we feel music, and people don't, and so that puts us in a whole different category within our senses. And so when you tell somebody, oh, you're not doing it right. Oh, don't talk about, where you used to work before because it'll never be accepted here. Like, for example, her history with Wayne Newton in Las Vegas. She was to another location, tries to expand her career. And, they tell her, oh, don't talk about Wayne Newton. That's a joke. Don't. But then I take her on tour with me, and we're with Slayer, and she tells us who she worked with.
No, you told them.
I told them.
Because I was like, why are you even mentioning this on a bus with Slayer? Like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to be made so much. Like, I thought people would make fun of me. I was horrified.
And Gary Holt and tour managers and people in there were like, whoa, that's rad. That is so cool. And then they started quoting some of the songs and everything. And it's just where it's the people you surround yourself with.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, absolutely right.
Yeah. And I just did not find my people.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That really resonates. I mean, totally agree with you about the, the sort of, on the one hand, you have this sort of negativity of the, the kind of the gatekeepers, the, the people that think that they have ownership of you and of your talent and life direction. And then you kind of go in the tour bus with Slayer, and then it's like, okay, this is not that, what I've just experienced is not what it should be.
Exactly.
It's not like, but I mean, as a sort of parallel, I mean, I guess I spent large portion of my life, worrying about what other people think, and to the detriment of like my own kind of intuition and instinct, thinking, oh no, but so and so, I can't do that because they won't agree with it or they won't like it, and I'm just like, oh my god, I can't believe that I fell for that.
That's exactly my life right there. It's just let everybody else kind of guide you and tell you, and to the even with singing, just like I knew kind of what my pocket was, what felt the best for me, where I felt I could get songs across properly, and being told, oh, you need to sing more like, to sing more, up tempo kind of music or happier songs or whatever. And that's just not how I felt.
Yeah.
It's like I had a deeper message, and I was always told like, no, you have to go this way. Or, write songs. You can't write like that. Familiarity breeds hits. You need to write radio. And I'm like, but that's already out there.
Yeah. And then, fast forward, and then she meets this kind of punk rocker / metalhead, that's her. Fuck what anybody says. You do what you want to do. Do you think Slayer would have taken off if they abided by rules at the time? So,
and then if you really want to blow it all open, he played me Phantomas.
With my pal, taking songs, from movies, soundtracks, and reimagining them, and with one of the most amazing vocalists in the world.
Yeah,
and it's just like the doors. You could open that door wide open. Don't just crack. Open it wide and see what's out.
It's interesting as to what prevents us from doing that. I mean, for some people, I guess it sort of comes naturally, but you may have the curiosity to see what's on the other side of that door or to open it, but then there's. And maybe I'm probably talking about myself. Not so much now. I've got a ton better, but certainly over the years, and then there's something that holds you back. Maybe it's a fear. Maybe it's like, oh, that's not really me. That's not who I am. I think this goes back to right back to childhood, as to what you learned. Those kind of formative influences.
I agree with that. Yeah, and I agree that it's fear, 100%. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't want to, go all into my childhood or anything.
Yeah,
like 100%. Take that for.
I never really knew that state of mind, for a person really existed until I met Paula. I always, spirited. It's like, hey. Let's play this kind of music, or listen to this style, style. It didn't matter. And, you were into, I loved all styles of music. And even the most obscure, I'll pull up on iTunes or in my personal, collection, and Paula would be like, wow, you really love this. I said, yes, I do, So I never knew this feeling existed. And I think that's where my passion came out. When she says, I'm like in the kitchen and she's telling me the story, and I'm like yelling, well, fuck those people. You do what you like the way you want. Because it angered me so deeply, and it saddened me, because music should be like a painting. If you want to use, 4 colors of paint, doesn't matter. You're
Yeah.
not going to be judged by Rembrandt.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know what I mean. Only purists will, and really the avant-garde will embrace it. So you don't
Well,
need to, feed into the purists. Just
well,
be yourself.
well,
Just
you start to think, don't you, and realise just the number of people who perhaps had Paula's experience of these people saying no, you shouldn't do that, don't do that. The whole kind of system of rules. How many people's talent has been
oh,
and creativity has been suppressed?
I can't even imagine.
you can't count. No.
No,
Crazy, isn't it? It's crazy to think about that.
bad
Yeah.
thought, honestly.
Can you imagine everyone in that mindset
Yeah,
telling one person, 2 people, 3 people, and
yeah,
then those people, well, I was told that you need to do this and this, and if you're not, so there you go, there's
Yeah.
another person.
Or if you don't do it this way, then you'll never make it.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think the whole make it thing, yes, we all would love success, but you really have to embrace the fact that you're just doing it, which says more than the other person that says, oh, I could have, but I didn't. Well, that's where you failed.
Yeah.
Even though I don't have monetary success, or fame, but I'm still doing it at my level. And maybe one day, maybe you will, but it really doesn't matter, because what you really want to do is feed that love for the art that you do. You want to feed that. You want to nourish that, and continue doing it. And
Giles and I suffocated it.
yeah.
Yes. Well, it's funny actually, because think of it. I mean, I mentioned in the intro, just as a kind of example for me. Think talking in the intro about me kind of getting back into playing the cello. So I played that instrument. I did all my exams from the age of. I mean, I started playing when I was 8, and I eventually I gave it up. I think I was either 16 or 17. And how old am I now? I'm 56 now. And it always felt to me, and this is going to sound critical of my dad, but it's not meant to be. But it always felt like it was his thing. He was a singer himself. He was sung in choirs. He was very musical, and he always wanted me to be the same. And obviously, I passed all my exams, so obviously I had some talent for it, but it never felt like it was my own choice.
Interesting.
It was like he was sort of pushing me into it. And the older that I got, so when I was kind of 11, my music tastes, the stuff that I listened to was changing. The structure then was very rules based, and it's a classical framework that you play, and all this sort of stuff, and I just couldn't compute it with this sort of love of punk rock that I had as a probably quite narrow-minded kid, and I grew resentful over as time went on, and it eventually got to that point where I was just like, fuck it, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
And it was only when they got ill a few years ago, I sort of went into this into a records it was actually into a Yamaha store in Soho in London, and just explained to the guy, I said, look, I used to play blah blah blah, I haven't played for 30 years, and can I just go and play it again? And it was the first, and he said sure. So he took me into this room. It was like a sealed room, so nobody could hear me, and but as soon as I got hold of that instrument, took the the neck of the instrument in my hand, just all this stuff came flooding back. It was I mean, it was just, I was astounded with it. It was quite emotional. And then I played it, and it was rusty, but the bones of the technique was still there. And
Wow.
and then I bought myself an instrument, and I'm starting playing again. And I'm gonna try and break out of that kind of traditional framework of learning and do something more kind of experimental, I guess.
That's amazing.
You should.
Yeah,
And there's
And I guess that is the thing. If I'd have felt that it was my own, that they were my own choices and it was my own decision, I think things would have been different. And I think I kind of relate to that. You know, so many other people that have perhaps gone through those sort of things.
Yeah. Wow.
Life's challenges, man.
Life's challenges, indeed. Yes. So, I mean, what would it? Again, if it's not too intrusive, you don't have to sort of talk about this. But you know, things that you really see as your kind of formative influences. You know, kind of, you know, from whatever age through your life. What kind of stands out for you? Whether it's, you know, people that you were hanging out with that have influenced you, some of the scenes that you were involved in, your physical environment. What kind of stands out?
Would that be for Dave or for me?
Either of you. Either.
I mean, when it came to, I was actually a very, like as I mentioned, an introvert. I was super shy as a kid, and I was doing classical piano. My parents got me into classical piano, and I was too shy to play in any of the recitals, to the point where I would just cry. Like I didn't want to do any of the recitals or anything. And eventually my mom heard me singing harmony with one of my friends, just somewhere random. It's a heart song, the song Alone. And my friend was a singer, and she was singing it. And I guess I just felt like those harmonies had to be there. And my mom heard that, and she's like, there, I got to get Paula into singing. So she put me in some lessons, and that's sort of where the singing part of it would have started for me. Influences on songwriting. I grew up with my parents listening to Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson quite a bit. And so I learned a very specific kind of songwriting. So that kind of influenced me there. Part Olivia Newton-John. You know, there was, I think Black Sabbath was a big one for me. You know, it's just very random, the stuff that I came across when I was young. And then I only started singing when I was 16, and I was working with Wayne just a couple of years later. So so I was thrown on stage within 24 hours of being hired without any knowledge of what I was going to be singing. And he has a lot of music that would be like traditional
standards.
Standards. And you like Frank Sinatra, Fly Me to the Moon, and just a lot of various songs, September Morn, all these different things.
Elvis.
And a lot of Elvis. But I didn't know those. And so I had to learn very quickly. So I started learning all that kind of music. And so that influenced me a lot, just on harmonies and strings, because we had an orchestra behind us, and I would sing with, you know, on average 3 other singers. So that influenced that part of my life. And then, well, I hope I'm answering this correctly, honestly.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, that must have been quite a big thing then, to, you know, from having that, you know, fear of performing at recitals to then going on stage. That must have been a really big deal for you.
It was terrifying. It was, at first, you know, I did do a little bit of singing before I started with him, but not that much. I definitely never honed, you know, a front person personality. Like I've never been like that. And then Wayne, you know, I was in the background most of the time, so there was some safety there with a lot of other singers. But Wayne would pull me out front to sing. And, you know, for a while there, he used to tease me because he would sit back at the piano, and he, you know, I'd finish the song and he'd give me a hug and he'd go, the bottom of your dress was shaking, because I was so nervous. You know? So, like, kind of ribbed me a little bit, not like to make me feel bad, but just kind of tease me a little. And I was like, oh, God, embarrassing. You know, so I learned a lot for sure, but it was a very big step for me. And I'm grateful for all of it. It was a hell of an experience, to say the least. And then back to influences. From there, I went to Nashville, and in Nashville, you're kind of thrown into, it's a songwriter's world, you know, and the songwriters there are, I hate to say it, but they're more talented than what you hear on the radio there, because if you go to a writer's round, and you hear some of these people put their own songs across, it is one, just unbelievable. They're incredible writers, but incredible talents. And here they are just, selling their songs. And I'm like, well, why aren't you doing it?
Wow.
So from all of that. And then Dave would be my next, I would say,
big influence. Yeah.
Life-changing influence. So yeah, I hate to keep babbling on. So
No, please do. No, this is fascinating. I mean, it's interesting that the sort of different, your journey and Dave's, and how eventually you kind of come together, and then create what you've created now. I just think it's fascinating how it kind of like all works. Maybe I get more philosophical as I get older. I don't know. I feel like I do.
That's a little scary too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Dave, when meeting Dave, that was where I was introduced also to like punk music for the first time. That had never been something that anybody ever showed me, and I never sought out. And so I'm new punk rocker, but I'm feeling good about it. And all the experimental stuff, the work that he's done with John Zorn. I mean, I'm in awe of the he works with. And
sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say for both of you. I mean, how have you over the years found your your kind of identity shifting? I've certainly felt it myself in what I've been doing in my life. Certainly, much more so in the past. I don't know, maybe 15 years, I'd say. But what's been your experiences?
Identity. Can you elaborate? I'm not sure I understand.
I'm just sort of thinking of like who you are as as a person, as Dave Lombardo. Who are you? You've had a kind of career, sort of in music, and how you're thinking of what's kind of what's important to you in life, what you going back to what we were talking about before, what success looks like for you, and those sort of things in terms of your identity.
Well, the bumps in the road and scars, definitely, shape you, and and sometimes those bumps in the road and things that you go through. Like in one song that we have called Truth, that it, if you're wise enough to take those lessons and learn from them, you're on your way, I believe, to, being the better you. Whatever it is, it doesn't necessarily have to be your fault or anything like that. These are just lessons in life. And you just start becoming wiser and a little more calculated in your moves. I just told that. I just spoke to Paula. Was it this morning or yesterday?
So, yeah.
I think it was this morning. Because I had a meeting with some friends yesterday, friends that had gone on tour with Slayer when we went to Europe for the very first time in '84. So that's how far we go. And I was just telling her, it's like, wow, when I'm going to be 60 this year, and very, very happy and proud to be 60, because like I told her, it's like, wow, I have this mental state, this kind of like stable mind, understanding, how to answer certain questions, how to be, diplomatic and very, respectful, instead of, just flying off the handle and, or whatever, and those things really, they develop in time. And I'm feeling this now, and it feels really good, because it feels I could, okay, so I got this handle, so I feel like I can make no mistakes from here on out. It's kind of, you have So
you're finally in control.
You're finally, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what I've found. I'm sure there's more to that question, but
Yeah.
that pretty much,
Yeah,
that's
I think that's a good point about your experience, and just living life. You learn how to handle situations, perhaps with more empathy, more with more of your own. You can manage your emotions a little bit better, perhaps. Not everybody, but I think that and also like kind of self awareness as well. I think self awareness is quite important. About going back to what we were talking about earlier about the words that people say to you. How those, I think Dave said, how those negative words can be so damaging, and you kind of learn about okay, well that's not a good way to talk to people.
No.
Yeah, so I think that
And
can affect your identity for sure. Yeah,
we started on how we talk to ourselves.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yes, that's a good point.
Yeah, because I'll I've had moments where quite often where I'll talk to myself in ways that I wouldn't to anybody else, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, or Giles, she'll say something, and she'll say something about herself, and I'll say, "Don't talk about my wife that way." It's like, stop!
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Because the negativity can come from yourself.
Yes, yeah.
Well, actually, that's a really good point. So I mean, how loud are your both of your inner critics?
Oh, you can probably. We're in California, and can you hear her? That's how.
Yeah, I've got a bit of interference coming in. I can hear it.
And mine are brutal. I'm brutal. I am brutal. Dave,
Yeah.
I don't think Dave is quite as bad.
No. I do have it, but I don't know. I think I've adapted how my parents were, and it's like, you do you. Forget about what everybody says. Yeah, and I'm going to say this. I'm fucking. Yeah, mom said, like, if somebody, if I was, let's say I was, 13, 12 years old or whatever. Oh, this kid, he said this, he said that. My mom would say, you wipe your ass with what they say. You do you. That's it. It's like, that's basically, my life right there. It's like, I don't care what anybody says. I am on my path. I am forging my own trail or my own, I am just going where I want to go. And if I get derailed, I'll just, get back up and just,
He really doesn't. I mean, unless it's stuff that he's not telling me, he doesn't really have too much of an inner critic, because Dave has even said, in some of my weaker moments, he's said to me, like, I have never spoken to myself like that. I don't understand where this is from. And so I think, I'm sure you've critiqued yourself here and there for sure, but the inner critic where you're looking in the mirror, I think you're more like my dad, where my dad gets up in the morning and he says, damn, I look good. And I'm like, okay, Dad. So maybe you're more.
If I'm unhappy and look at myself in the mirror and unhappy with what I see, I just stick my tongue out of myself and just walk away.
Oh my God.
It's funny is that I remember something that happened when I was must have been about 9 years old or something like that, and basically I've been playing playing football there was a school at the back of where I lived when I was a kid. I was on the school playing fields with my friends playing football. And it was one of those classic situations where it was like my mum came out and she said that, my dinner was ready, come in. And it was my ball. So I took my ball, and it's my ball. I'm going to take it in. And which pissed off the rest of them. And one of them went back to his mother and said, "Oh, Giles Giles has gone in, but he told me to fuck off." She before I'd actually got in the house, she'd been over to see my dad and told him this story. I got back and my mum said, "Oh, your dad wants to see you." So I went upstairs and he's just like said, "Dorothy's just been across. This happened," and I'm like, "No, it didn't. That is untrue." And my dad basically believed my friend over me.
Oh no!
Yes, yes. So, and I still remember that. So I'm like, so that has kind of caused me some issues with trust over the years and things like that. I'm like, fuck, why does this happen? It's kind of crazy. But yeah, I think, Dave saying, like, your mum saying to you, that about, that, about anybody that kind of criticize you, you can kind of wipe your ass with them. That's like supportive, isn't it? In the nicest possible way. But that's kind of support that gives you that feeling of being supported.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
That's amazing.
What how much do you use or rely on your instinct? Like your gut instinct.
Just in general in life,
yeah,
I rely on my gut all the time, and if I don't, everything goes wrong. I'm really rarely wrong, but it took me a while to trust it. But I in the past, I'd say probably 15 years. Oh no, we've been together for 15, so I would say probably 17 years. I've like really firmly believed in how I feel and what my gut is. So yeah, that's big. Instincts are big.
Does that translate through into songwriting as well?
It is now, yeah.
Yeah.
So I had all my instincts before on what I felt, where I should be singing, and what sounded right for me, and what I should be writing about, and how I might connect with people by just being my most authentic self. And I tried to write for other people instead. So I feel like now I'm really trusting that feeling. And of course, having to break through all the things that I did, I feel like leaning into it a bit more. And, the other lesson is reevaluating yourself, which I realized I hadn't done in years. I was still thinking what 16-year-old Paula wanted out of, instead of going through like, what I feel everybody should do really is like every couple of years. Okay, I'm still on this path, but does it still look the same for me? Do I still be this kind of singer? Do I want to tour? Do I want to songwrite? Like, do I want to be a front person? Like, I hadn't ever really reevaluated it until 2020. And I was like, how have I been chasing the same stuff over and over and over again? So, when you reevaluate and go, okay, music doesn't look like that for me anymore. This is what it looks like. And once I did that, and I was able to start following my gut, it all just kind of fell into place.
One of the big things, one of the agreements we had going into the first Venom Morris record was, okay, Paula, we go at your pace. What you want to, if if you don't want to do a photo shoot, we don't do a photo shoot. If you don't want to do a song like this, we won't do it. If just we'll take every step as you feel appropriate, whatever you feel. And I think that's helped her a lot because it gave her that security of not being pressured in doing something that she is not comfortable with. So with everything that we've done since the release of the first album, it's always been, how do you feel about this? How would you like to go, through this, and it's been great because I feel like she's knocked down some barriers and fear that she had. One was just releasing music and putting it out. That was one of the biggest fears. And realizing that a lot of my fans embraced it. She couldn't believe it. She goes, wow, they actually like it. Roles, online, commenting, doing their stupid, negative comment. but for the most part, it was positive.
Mm.
So, okay, that was, reassuring to her that, hey, I'm doing something right. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's keep going, but only if you feel comfortable, whenever you're ready, if you want to make a first move and do another record, we'll do it, and so I think that's helped her have that control instead of feeling out of control and everyone working for her and stuff, and her feeling just unable to grasp the moment.
Yeah, when you feel out of control, you feel lost.
Yeah,
and you feel like you're just in a world of confusion. And I think that
chaos too.
Yeah,
I feel that.
Yeah, and the way that Dave has done this, this whole project with me and let me go at my pace, it feels like it's allowed me to take the steps a little faster than I thought I would. So. And like the photo shoot is the perfect example. The first album, I was like, no, I am not doing a photo shoot. I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want to be in any videos. I just wanted to put music out. And then I looked back and I said, okay, what's my one regret from that album? And I was happy with the songs. I felt like it was representative of the moment and the journey but I was like, I should have done photos. One day if I get to 80, if I'm lucky enough to make it to 80, why wouldn't I want to see what I looked like in that moment? Like, why wouldn't I want to document that? So this time we did the photo shoot. And so now the next thing is, videos. So
yeah,
to make me feel a little bit secure there and do a little bit here and there, but so they're all just little hurdles that I'm getting past, and it's making me feel a bit more comfortable with each thing.
I would like to not correct, but, just make clear. We did do a little photo shoot for the first record, but but we did it ourselves.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
With just an iPhone.
Yeah,
and then using one of those little remote clickers. To take.
And I had to do my own photo by myself when he was on tour because I didn't even want him a part of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and then of course he comes home and I do 5 pictures of him and they're done. Yeah, that was pretty funny. But this time, I mean, even for our publishing company, Dave was able to take some pictures of me and I felt a little more comfortable. So I'm getting there.
Yeah. And then we sent for the animal magnetism video, I was able to videotape her and she was happy with the footage and we used it. And for this next video, we did, some other shots as well, but, minimal, just like at her pace, whatever she feels comfortable. That's what we're going to do. I feel the music is important enough to treat it with that much care. I think it's that the music is that. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I feel like the music is that important that we need to treat it with as much care as possible.
I'd completely agree with that. I think it's the music is so so kind of evocative, and it for me it kind of brings these kind of different sort of feelings, different pictures and images, and I think that's kind of perfect for kind of the sort of videos that you're doing that you've already done. And but I think the two really do go hand in hand. I really like this idea of the kind of the music and the arts, whether that's sort of video or photography or kind of like the artwork on the physical covers, which I guess we don't have as much now as we used to. But I still think I think it's a really important part of that whole kind of package, if you will, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's a different approach. Everyone has their own style and approach to this, and I think we found ours, and it's going to be our trajectory for a while. And
I also like too that the songs. I feel like those songs are my emotions and my feelings and like working through a lot of things in life, but I feel like a lot of people have gone through those emotions and feelings. And I think that when you have a video like that, you're not really putting my face on it or my personality on it. It's kind of still allowing it, even in the video, to be whatever you need it to be.
Yeah,
Interpreted.
Personalizing yourself. So,
Absolutely agree with that. Yeah, I think that's really important. You know, to do that. You know, there are some circumstances, I guess, where it's a very kind of obvious statement. You know, some music is like that, some records are like, some songs are like that. But then there certainly, there's a big place for our own interpretation of which, as you say, personalizes it and makes it feel, I guess, sort of feel like it belongs to you in a way because it's your interpretation of it.
Yeah,
I mean, talking about, I mean, Dave mentioned animal magnetism and the video for it. I mean, doing the cover of that. I know that Dave, this was a really important, kind of song and band for you. Did that record take on when you did the cover? Did that record take on a new meaning for you?
The Animal Magnetism album you're referring to?
The cover version that you've done, the cover that you've done.
Oh yes, it did take on a whole new meaning. I never thought that song would feel so sensual and sultry, and it was just like it really it hugged me, it really turned into something more than what I imagined.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of going into something, let's say into a world that you're not used to or have ever been in, and then just and that's all that song was. I told her, when I said, we have to re-record the song, but in a whole different way. And she was like, no, I don't think so. I don't want to do covers. And,
and I just couldn't imagine doing that particular song. I was just like, I don't see how that will work for me at all. And the last thing you do is take a classic and disrespect it in some way, so I was terrified of doing anything that wouldn't sound appropriate or respectful.
Yeah, but I had this vision, I had this idea, and we had already developed our sound, which that's a whole other story in itself, and very lucky because some bands take forever to establish a feel or groove or or image of their music, and with proposing that song to her, and when the ideas just started flowing, it was like a no-brainer. We have to do it. And then the next day, this was the magic moment. I'm upstairs, I just got out of the shower and I hear, playing the piano a little bit and run out of my towel and, are you playing Animal Magnetism? And figure something out.
Yeah, I wasn't
hold
sure
on, let me open up a session in the studio. Do it in there, record it in there. And one thing led to another, and it was just like a snowball. It just kept growing and growing until we finished it. And I said, it's done, and it's ready.
Wow.
So that's really, really exciting. And that happens to us a lot, which I love. We'll start an idea and we'll listen to it for a while. And then the next 2 or 3 days, we'll come back to it. And it's like boom, 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 one after the other. She'll lay down the bass track. I'll lay down the drums. We'll find a strange, ambient sound. Then she starts laying down the vocals, and it's like, wow, we're almost there. It's almost done. So it's so much fun to experience and watch.
I mean, I mean, one of the things I was going to ask you about was, taking risks and not playing it safe. And I think you've answered it with that. What happened with Animal Magnetism. Maybe being reticent to start with about doing it, and then it happens, and then it evolves and grows, and then it becomes this kind of beautiful thing, which it is. It's really fabulous version of it.
Thank you.
And I love that. You know, about how songs can change. You know, almost like, you know, the these kind of living beings that you can be reinterpreted.
Yeah.
And you know, and then that kind of fuels this I guess sort of creativity, and almost like, you know, encourages you to sort of break out of, you know, any, you know, kind of boundaries or anything, and really you know, the world's your oyster for what you want to create, which is so
Mm-hmm.
exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that's I think what I wanted to convey to Paula, that when if you have the means and the capability of creating a piece, um, the world is your oyster. That song is your. It's like a little like our child, you know.
Mm.
We develop it, we teach it, we mold it, and then we release it and send it off into the world, and you know, hopefully, you know, everyone will enjoy its company, you
Yeah.
know. And so that's it's a beautiful way to perceive music and to experience it. It's even more, you know, more great. It's like,
I mean, I guess just to sort of finish off, we're about, as we're recording this, we're about just about a month away from the record coming out. How are you feeling now, in anticipation of its release, and how are you feeling? And then, if you can remember how you were feeling with your first record coming out, what is there any difference to, you know, how you're feeling about them?
Yeah, for me there is, because the first one, it was my first time really having my thoughts. You know, that first album was very much like a journal, like a personal diary that happened, and I felt super exposed, you know, putting it out there, and it was a little scary. And you know, the part of the judgment is words. You know, like how am I going to be viewed? Oh, they're too simple, they're too this, they're too that. And when it's your feelings, it's actually your emotions on paper, and you just hope that you're maybe helping somebody else or reaching somebody else or giving them a love song that's going to mean something. And so I had a lot of fears in that one. This one is a little different. I'm still just as nervous about everything. My emotions are a little darker on this one for the reasons that we explained earlier. And so, you know, there's always that, whoa, hey, what was going on in her life, you know? So I'm already concerned about, you know, my parents hearing a couple songs and they're going to be worried about me. So, you know, just like, I'm going to get some phone calls about this song. But in breath, it's like, I feel like free, you know. I'm like putting this stuff out there, and I'm starting to feel like Dave always says to me, you know, put it out, on to the next. And the second that Ipecac took the album, and we knew that this was going ahead, and we started working with them on releasing this, I was immediately able to start writing other songs. And so I feel that right there tells me like I'm much more comfortable. You know, I was writing other songs the last time too, but it was a little different. It was I was writing because I was in pain at that time. And I'm writing, you know, with excitement. And I'm writing, like, we're creating the songs. Like, if I write something, then Dave and I are recording it within the week, instead of me writing a bunch of dark lyrics, and then he comes home after 6 weeks and then maybe able to work with me a little bit, and then he's gone for another 4 weeks. So this time it's, you know, I'm able to process it a little differently, and I'm really excited, but you know, obviously the fears are still there, but
yeah.
but I'm picking them out as I can, you know, showing them the door.
and I'm super excited. I'm just, I'm happy that we have, you know, some couples, you know, they go into business together, you know, some of them open, you know, restaurants, coffee shops, you know, they have their own, you know, businesses. and this is what we have. And we have a little workshop, a little studio, and we can go in here at any time. And early in the morning, wake up, have some coffee. Okay, let's go to the studio. Let's work on that.
Yeah, we're in here.
And so it's really cool, at least for me, to have a music release, a band, what you want to call it, a band. Working out of our home, where I went and work at any time. I could work on the sounds. I could do editing. I could get everything for the mixing engineer, and so like today, I had a meeting in Los Angeles, and I was gone, basically half the day, and she was there writing or re-recording to an existing song. So she's able to come in here and relax and record at her own, record vocals at her own pace in her own comfort zone, without hanging out in the hallway or her feeling, oh, I got to wrap this up. You know what I mean? It was just something very, there's something very freeing about
that. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I can appreciate that.
Yeah. So I'm really excited, and looking for continuing, this body of work, and keep adding to the catalog, and and see what the future.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm really excited to see what people think. I think they'll love it. I think it's a fantastic record. Brilliant follow up to the first one. Really brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So anyway, guys, thank you so much for your time. It's been phenomenal to talk to you both.
Thank you so much. It was great to talk to you too.
Yeah, great to talk to you, Giles, and thank you for this moment.